I'm Faith Torres, Miss Gibraltar 2022, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hello, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project. My special guest for today is Faith Torres, who is Miss Gibraltar 2022. Faith, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm good. I'm great.
I am going to apologize now for not being able to say your surname correctly. I cannot
It's
roll my
fine.
R without spitting
Fine.
all over the webcam. How do you pronounce it, just for the record?
It's Torres. You have to roll it a little bit.
I cannot do that without spitting everywhere.
Yeah.
Is there any trick to being able to roll your
To
R's?
roll the R, I think it's just practice. It's like muscle memory. You just have to your way away until you can fit it into words.
Okay, I will dedicate 10 minutes every day for the rest
Yeah,
of my
yeah.
life to practicing that. Faith, I guess the first question is, I mean, you were crowned a fair while ago, probably
Yeah.
about 6 months. Can you walk us through what life has been like since you were crowned?
Well, in a place so small like Gibraltar, everyone kind of knows everyone. So when I was crowned, that like propelled me to the forefront of society, and all of a sudden everyone was watching my every move, and I was getting involved in many different projects and charity work. So I've basically just been busy with charity since then. I've also started working a full-time job. So juggling both is a bit difficult at times, but if I schedule everything correctly, I'm having a great time.
Whereabouts did you start working? Because the interviews that I saw you, I think you had just graduated, and we'll get to the
Yeah.
degree that you work in. I thought you were taking a gap year and taking it easy, so that's no longer the
Yeah, that's
case.
not it. So that was my intention. But obviously I need a job because I can't. Miss Gibraltar it doesn't pay, so I need a job. So I started working in the labs, in the hospital labs, in our only hospital we have in Gibraltar. And it was a couple months ago that I started. So I've been Miss Gibraltar longer than I've been a lab worker.
And in the other interview I saw, you mentioned that you might be doing bloods. So is that where you ended up doing bloods?
Blood, I do a bit of everything. I'm still like training in where it is, so I go into all different departments. I try to learn a bit in everything, but I find it really interesting, the hematology side of things.
My father is a hematologist, so
Yeah.
yeah, I know a little bit about what you're talking about. But I just want to go back to Gibraltar. Now, I am not good with history, nor am I good with geography. I hated history in school. I
Yes, so did
spent I spent this afternoon studying about Gibraltar. Well, I had a YouTube video going, and absolutely fascinated. So it's 2.6 square miles,
Yeah,
apparently, but got a population of about 25,000, which
it's
makes it
small.
like the fifth most like densely populated
It's
country.
small. I think we are 30,000. 30
30,000.
to 32,000. But we have so many workers coming in over the border every single morning. We have approximately, I think it's 10 to 15,000. So I think we're one of the most densely populated. We have to be. We have no space with loads of people.
So, and then I also saw your airport, which for some reason everyone on YouTube was saying world's most dangerous airport, or
Yeah,
one of the world's most dangerous airports. And I was like,
yeah.
what does that mean? Because I've seen airports where planes have to do crazy things to land. This one looked relatively normal. And then I looked at it and went, is that a road running across the
Straight
middle of
across
the
the middle.
runway? So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
does that work? So you've got the runway and then there's
So
this road going
there's the
across.
runway in the middle, and then there's like barriers on either side. So there's guards there. Whenever it's safe, the barriers open up, the cars go, and you can walk through. And then when there's a plane coming, barriers close. It's obviously cleared up. The plane comes, and then we can walk again.
Does
I
this
think
not
it came
freak you
out.
out
No,
at
no,
all?
because for me it's so normal. It's been there all this time, so But I think it came out on the History Channel a few years ago that it was the second or third most dangerous or most outrageous airport because of the runway.
Outrageous, I can understand. Dangerous
Yeah,
was,
it's
I
not
don't know.
not
I don't
dangerous.
know how they classify dangerous, but obviously representing such a small country, 25 to 30,000 people. I mean, some football stadiums, even here in Australia, can
Yeah,
seat 80,000 people.
yeah.
And then I looked back at Gibraltar and I was like, I was fascinated to find out that Gibraltar actually has won Miss World in the past, back in 2009. So it
2009.
certainly has history. And I
Yeah.
know that you look up to, forgive me, I can't remember the name, but the previous winner as one of your role
Um,
models. You listed
yeah, yeah,
Marie Curie and,
yeah.
oh, is it Malala? I can't
Malala,
remember
yeah.
so have you got in contact with the previous winner at all? Do you know
Yes.
her at all?
Yes, yes. So she lives in Gibraltar. So I see her in the street. I see her, every now and then. We haven't really like met up to like discuss things or anything. That is definitely like on the table though. But yeah, we exchange messages. She always sends me like, "Oh, you're doing so well. I saw this thing that you did." And yeah, it's just crazy because for me, she won when I was 9. So for me, she was like a celebrity. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's Miss World." And just the fact that she's like messaging me now, I get a bit starstruck, but
Did you see, or did you go to her homecoming? That's something else I saw on YouTube.
yes, we all got. Well, I was in school. We got the afternoon off, and everyone got time off work to go and see her. Yeah, it was like a massive event. We've never had anything like that happen before to Gibraltar. So she came back, and then she did this like parade down the main street. It's like a cavalcade. We have a cavalcade every year, and this was it. It was like a cavalcade, and she just went from the main square all the way to City Hall, and then she came
Wow.
out on the balcony with the mayor and stuff. And then she was mayor.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was the
I
following year, I think.
I was just astonished to find that. I mean, because there are like a lot bigger pageant countries that are yet to win Miss World, and I wasn't expecting to find that
Gibraltar,
Gibraltar had
tiniest
it.
place.
So Gibraltar's on the map. Obviously, there's
Yeah,
some precedent with Miss World in particular. But I guess a question that I have is, how would you describe Gibraltar to someone
Gibraltar.
who's never been? Because to me, it's absolutely
Yeah,
fascinating
I
in
always
so
have
many
to do this
ways.
because when I go on holiday, I go on a cruise, or even when I went to university, I studied in UK. I'm like, oh, I'm from. Well, firstly, they're like, where's that accent from?
I
I'm like,
was,
and I
I was going
always
to say,
say my favorite thing is guess because the guesses are amazing. They put me all over the place. But then I say, oh, I'm from Gibraltar, and everyone goes, oh, what? Where's that? So I basically just say it's in the southern tip of Spain, but we're British, and it's just a very small little peninsula that we live in. It's mainly a massive rock with reclaimed land around it, but we're just very loving people, and we've got a lot of beautiful scenery, a lot of history to us. So if anyone comes, I'd recommend that they obviously go and see all the touristic sites and all of that. But it takes like a day to see everything because it's all so close. And then I'd say go out and get to know the people because we're so warm and accepting that I just want everyone to meet us.
okay, that's now I've worked with the UK girls a lot, and
Yeah.
I love them to death. But just in general, because I've interviewed people around the world, I don't think the first thing that comes to mind when they describe the Brits is warm and
Warm
accepting
and
and loving. It
accepting.
tends to be a little
Yeah.
bit the other way. So you guys are part of the UK, but your
Yeah.
accent to me is fascinating. It's the first thing when I heard it, it's like it's English, but it's not. Like
But
it's
it's
British, but
not.
it's not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something. Yeah, I mean, because I was asking AI, my best friend AI, ChatGPT, can you describe the Gibraltarian accent to me? Because I can't quite work it out, and
Yeah.
even the AI couldn't quite describe it. So, what parts go into? I mean, it sounds like a melting
I'm
pot,
not sure.
if I'm
Yeah, I
honest.
think it's so mixed and different generations speak differently. For example, I sound like this, and everyone around my age speaks like me. The younger generation doesn't, we all speak Spanish, but they
Yeah,
don't speak as much Spanish. So the accent is slightly more English,
yeah.
maybe a little more even American. I
Okay.
don't know how to describe it, but then as the generations get older, it sounds more and more Spanish. Like you should hear my dad speak. Like
Okay.
no one, he speaks in English, and everyone's like, you really have to concentrate to know what he's saying, but it's his first language. But yeah, they sound more. The older generation sounds more Spanishy. I don't know how to,
Okay.
more Hispanic, not Spanish. They sound more Hispanic when they speak.
Right.
And I
And
think
is
it
there?
has to do with because they lived through a closed border. So they
Yeah.
couldn't really get out anywhere. Like I've been to UK, I've traveled, like obviously I've, and I've got social media, I speak to people with different accents all the time. So, and TV as well. When I was growing up, I had
Mhm.
American TV, I had British, like UK television. In Jib, we only had GBC and one Spanish, a couple of Spanish channels. That's what my parents grew up with. So obviously they sound a little bit different.
It sounds absolutely fascinating. Does
Yeah.
does Gibraltar have its own dialect? That was something that I was sort of looking into, and it said like you guys almost
Is
have your own
yeah,
dialect.
we have. I wouldn't say it's a dialect. It's obviously not a language because it's just Spanglish. We just
Yeah.
mix it so much. I'd start a sentence in one language and finish it in another. Or there's some words that I only know in Spanish. There's some words I only know in English. But slowly we've made our own. We have words for certain things that are neither English or Spanish. So
Wow.
yeah, it's called Janito.
Okay. I wonder if that's going to be an interesting experience for you when you're at Miss World, because you might slip
Yeah.
into suddenly
I
speaking in
never thought.
Spanish,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
girls will be like, "What?"
What? No, I never thought that I spoke so mixed. I never thought I spoke Spanish so mixed until I went to university. And everyone was like, we can't, you have to speak slower. You can't really understand what you're saying. And I'm like, what? I don't know this. Obviously, like now I'm making a conscious effort to just speak in English.
Yeah.
But at first, when I went to university, I was like, oh, I speak English. Like, I'm just going to go. I spoke however, like, and there are a few words that slip that I don't notice myself.
I like how they were asking you to speak more slowly,
They're like,
as if speaking a foreign
slower.
language that they don't understand
Yeah, yeah,
would help them. It's still a
yeah.
word they don't understand. Um, I'm going to assume, but I won't assume. I'll ask you. Gibraltar must have its own identity, though, right? So you went to study in the UK, and
Yeah,
obviously, technically, you guys are part of the UK. Not
yeah.
technically, you are part of the UK. But I'm assuming when you went over there, it still didn't feel quite like home, though, right?
Yeah, no, no, because it's very different. The culture, the atmosphere, something as simple as the climate, it's so different. Everyone sounds so different. Everyone looks different. I don't know. It was a shock for me because in Jib we're also close. We know each other so well. I was like dropped in this massive pond. I was a bit like, well, what's going on? But it was just strange to not see any familiar faces past you. No one sounds like you. You feel a bit out of your comfort zone. And you have
Yeah.
to do everything like you have to meet new people, new friends, you have to get to know a new city and traveling. Like in Gibraltar, we don't have to travel at all. You can do from the border to Europa Point in no time. So
Yeah.
the first time I got a train, I was like, what is this? Where am I going?
Do
But
you
no,
how do you get around in Gibraltar? Because obviously it's quite small. So do you guys just
yeah,
walk?
you could walk everywhere. Obviously, it gets to a point where it is a bit much.
Okay.
um, and depends where you're going. If you're going up the rock, if you're going somewhere that land starts to go up, I've got a little moped, so it's not so much a car. It's like a bike, and I go around on my little bike. That's my
That's
form of transport because it's just me. There are a lot of cars. I think statistically we don't do very well in terms of cars per capita or something. Like it's not too good for the
right.
environment because we all have cars in a very small place. Like traffic is quite heavy, especially around
Yeah.
the frontier because the queues are outrageous. But yeah,
I can only imagine. It sounds like a fascinating place. I have to admit that
yeah,
before I did my research, I had no idea. I'd heard of Gibraltar and the Rock of Gibraltar,
yeah.
but
We're
beyond that,
famous.
I had no idea. When you went to the UK, whereabouts did you study? What city
in
were you
Oxford.
in?
Oxford Brooks.
Oxford.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay, so
Oxford
talk
Brooks.
about a talk about a culture shock.
Yeah, yeah. It was a lot. But I
What
liked it
did
because it
you
was like it's like an old town. It looks like an old town, and parts of Gibraltar, like the inner city, so not the reclaimed side, the inner city is like an old town. So it reminded me of, the old buildings reminded me of the city walls at home. So it was nice, but it was so much bigger, so like huge culture shock. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, Miss World is supposed to be held. I'm not sure when. Hopefully
no,
soon,
no,
but
no,
somewhere
soon.
in I think it's Dubai, isn't it? In the
Yeah, they
UAE.
said
So
the Arab Emirates. So
yeah,
I'm gonna assume Dubai because it's the biggest place,
yeah,
it's the most touristic place.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm super excited. I've never
Have you?
really left Europe, so
Oh wow.
yeah, so
Okay.
I'm really excited to travel. I was the whole
Nice.
time I was like, please don't let it be in Europe. Just please, please don't let it be.
You just wanted to see something else, or you wanted to go somewhere warm, or
I just wanted to travel far because
oh,
I wouldn't really travel that far, either by myself or with my family. We wouldn't go somewhere so far away. We just keep within Europe.
I see.
So I
I
was like, oh
see.
my gosh, please, I want to go. And especially because we're going to spend so much time there. It's quite a few weeks
Yeah.
now, I'd assume. So be like, oh, please, it'd be somewhere so beautiful.
Yeah, you're gonna have over a month there, I think. Miss World
Yeah,
internationally is one of the longer pageants, and then obviously if you go a
yeah,
little bit before and you want to stay a little bit after, if you're not completely exhausted. I mean, you do have a full-time job, so getting time off
yeah,
work could be interesting. Um, but that area of the world, Dubai, is from what you were saying, it sounds completely polar opposite. It's a lot of people,
yeah,
ultra modern.
yeah,
I haven't spent much time there, but it sounds culturally very, very different. I have to ask you very importantly, most important because you are a pageant girl, food. What did you think about UK food?
well,
Okay.
my
The-
first. Okay, so thing is, in Jib, we have such a mix of different cuisines. It's mainly like Spanish, but it's more Mediterranean because we're very big on the Italian food side as well. We have lots of I don't know how to explain it. We're just such a mix of I just describe it as Mediterranean. And in UK it's very different. It's very different. It's not so varied. I don't know how to say I don't know how to explain this. It's not that varied. But in
I'll
Oxford, there was a really nice place. It was called Al Andalus. So Andalusia is the closest city to us.
yeah.
It's just across the Bay of Gibraltar. And this place in Oxford, I don't know how I found it. It was in one of these little passageways in the high street. It was called Al Andalus, and it was like Andalusian tapas, and I loved
Wow.
it. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like my house. It's like my mom. It was so good.
It sounds like you didn't have much luck with with the UK food. Did you try any things like black pudding or Eton mess or those dishes that just
No.
have very
I've
weird
always
and
been a
wonderful
very,
names?
very fussy eater. So I don't
Oh dear.
really span out to I'm not that brave when it comes to these things. So I try to stick within what I'm used to. It's what I like. But I'm obviously open to like trying new things, but I know I'm such a fussy eater that chances are it's not gonna go down very well.
What is a food that everyone loves that you hate?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I really don't like Indian food. Like
So no
Asian food, I'm
curries.
not, no. I really don't. And like and I want to like every time my friends are like, oh my gosh, let's order this or let's go and eat here. I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay. I get myself something. Then I'm like, okay, have it. Like it's all in my head. It's all in my head. I have a bit and I'm like, why have I had this? Why did I order this? But no, yeah, I just wish I liked more things. I do think it's something that I'll eventually overcome because from the time I
Hopefully.
was like a young girl, like 10, 11, 12, to now, I've, my like scope for food has really expanded. So I'm hoping this will carry on.
Okay. All right.
But
You mentioned obviously Spanish influences and then Mediterranean. I mean, that all sounds delicious.
yeah,
Are there any dishes that are particular to Gibraltar? I notice you keep referring to Gibraltar as Gib.
Jib.
I didn't know that was a thing. But
Yeah,
are there any particular dishes that are unique to Gibraltar?
it's very. I'd say what we would consider traditional food for us is very Spanish influenced.
Right.
There's one thing that we have called calentita, which is like this. It's made with chickpeas. It looks like a little. I don't know how to say this in English. You see, it's like an empanadilla. It's like a
Like
little. I don't know how to
pancake?
describe it.
Like a pancake, a flatbread,
No, it's like kind of like flatbread, but it's not. It's done with like
like
chickpeas,
a
and you can fill
tortilla.
it with different things. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like a tortilla. Yeah. So it's made with chickpeas, and you can put like whatever you want inside, essentially. And we have a. It's actually coming up for the first time since COVID this summer. We have a calentita night, so everyone goes out in the street. There's markets everywhere, and we all eat that. And I'm going to tell you a secret. I don't like it that much.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
It's because I'm
I
a picky eater. I love going out. I love the whole street party that we have. I'm there. I live for it. I'm there from start to finish. But I'll probably only have one.
It sounds like it'd be very handy to be such a picky eater when it comes to like pageant and modeling prep, though, because if you don't like
Yeah.
any of these foods, you're not going to eat a lot. But you must have some food. You can't be a pageant
No,
girl
like,
if there's
oh my
no
god.
food that you like. I mean, what is
This
the
is
one
this is
thing
my
that you live
problem.
by?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a problem. I like the things I shouldn't. I
Chocolate,
love pizzas, burgers,
pizza.
nuggets, stuff like that. Oh my gosh, I could have it every day. I do. I do. I try to control myself a bit, but I do have variations of it that might make it a bit healthier. I'm lucky I like salads and I make
Okay.
my own kind of. I put different things. I don't follow a recipe. My mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, mom, do you think you can do me a salad with this, this, and this? She's like, yeah, yeah.
I
But yeah,
can't
no.
believe you live around Italian and Mediterranean and you're eating nuggets. That's such
I
a
love Italian food. It's my favorite cuisine. I would have it every day. Breakfast, lunch,
yeah,
tea, dinner. I have the whole thing. It's one
that
of those things
makes
that if I go to an Italian restaurant, this is something else that I do. If someone says, oh, we're going to go to a restaurant, I look at the menu before. It's my anxiety. I can't deal with the pressure of sitting there like, I don't like anything. Now what do I do? So I make sure I like something before.
okay.
And I like prepare myself. But at somewhere like an Italian restaurant, I know I'll open it and I like almost everything. I don't have to do that.
I had a former Miss Universe Great Britain over here. Well, at the time when she was over,
Yeah.
she was about your age, and then she went on to compete and win Miss Universe Great Britain and made top 16. But
Wow.
she sounds almost as fussy as you, and I didn't know. She didn't tell me, and I'm not used to being around fussy eaters. I haven't met that many, and when someone says they're fussy, I never think, oh, okay, it's just like a couple of things you don't like. So
No, it's
when I
like
first met her here, I took her to a Chinese restaurant, and in Chinese restaurants, it's very common to just you don't have like a piece of fish like you would have
yeah.
in a Western restaurant. You get the whole fish that comes out
Mm.
on the plate with the head and the tail, and then it's kind of dismembered in front of you. And then we also had a crab or a lobster, so the whole thing sort of comes out, and you just pick it up with your hands and you start eating it. And I swear she spent the whole time just sitting there, unable to eat anything
Oh my
except
gosh.
steamed white rice, and I felt so sorry for her, but I've never been so
Oh.
self-conscious about. So I mean, look, you're in good company. There's certainly she's done very well in pageants.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I mean, if we go back for a second, I mean, obviously you are Miss Gibraltar, as I understand it was your first pageant,
Yes.
and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but you entered it really to work on yourself. You've mentioned your anxiety and how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
suffered with
yeah.
it in the past. And you didn't
Mhm.
enter to win as much as you entered to prove to yourself that you could
Yeah,
do it and you could
yeah,
do anything you set your mind to. And now you've
yeah,
gone and won it. And now
yeah,
you'll be traveling overseas to represent your country. So just
yeah.
walk us through that journey, because I know someone. I mean, if you can just see behind me, you see a bit of a banner That's a book I
Yeah.
released on Amazon with another pageant queen. She suffered from extreme anxiety, panic
Yeah.
attacks,
Yeah.
having to lock herself in bathrooms. It was terrible. And then we released a book on Amazon on women's mental health, and it hit number
Mhm.
one. So I have some experience with what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
can you just walk me through that journey?
So I've always loved, like, I am a scientist, like that's my profession, but I always have always loved music, the performing arts. I've played piano since I was 7. I've sang in choirs. I've represented Gibraltar as part of the choir. But this whole performance anxiety thing is something that I've struggled to overcome all the way until the night of Miss Gibraltar. Before I was backstage, like literally just sat there trying to like channel my energy, my nerves into excitement. But anyway, so when I was younger, I remember I was going to play my first piano recital. I must have been
Mm,
8. It was in the governor's house. I was like, I must be quite
wow.
good. I was remember thinking, I must be quite good. I'm only 8. I'm going to play here. And obviously, it was the first time that I was going to, go up on a stage by myself. And I completely chickened out. I had a little panic attack. I like thought to myself, okay, I'm one of those people who have stage fright. Like it's something that I'm gonna live with. I always thought when, like in school, when the teacher would ask me to read out loud, I'd always get
Mm,
so nervous. Like my voice would be so shaky. I was one of those kids. I was always very shy and nervous. And then growing up, obviously, it was something that I had such a passion for. I thought I have to overcome this slowly. I'll have to overcome this. So I joined the choir. I started, being on stage. Every chance that I got, I tried to get on stage. So when I was like 15 or 16, in Gibraltar, they do the Young Musicians Festival. So it's like open entry, anyone can enter. They bring an adjudicator from abroad, and it's like a little festival that anyone can watch.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play. I think I've come to the point where I can do this. Um, and I played 2 pieces, and I got through them successfully. I was super happy. I was so nervous, and this is the thing that I hate. I'm a pianist, and when I get nervous, my hands shake. I could have hiccups. I could have anything else, but no, my hands shake. So it was difficult, but anyway, I played like during the course of the week. Every day is, they've got different categories and stuff. And I was called after my day, and they were like, "Could you please play this specific piece in the gala?" I was like,
Hmm.
wow, okay. And then I was like, "Oh no, I have to play again." But I was like, "Wow, okay." So obviously they liked it. Anyway, so obviously being there in the gala, it was more nerve-wracking because it was a bigger stage, there was more people, but I had been asked to be there, obviously for a reason. So I thought
Yes.
that's the first time I thought, oh, they want me to be, they've asked me to be here, like, and it's because of what I showed them. So I'm gonna play the same thing. I'm just gonna sit down and do it. Like I have to, even if I don't believe it myself, I have to tell myself that it's all gonna be okay. I'm here for a reason. I've worked
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah.
Like I owe it to myself to play. So they call it, like, the awards start happening, they call the singers and stuff. And the pianist, I think it was me, and it's in ages. So I was like the
Okay.
teenager, then there was like a little girl, a younger guy. And then they said, and the prize for the best pianist under 18. And I was like, oh, it's probably this cute little girl or this and that. And then they called me. And I was like, wow, that's the first like music award that I won by myself. Like me, from sitting down, dedicating time into practicing and being like disciplined
Yeah.
enough to carry this out. And not only like the music side, the personal side of,
Mm,
I have to bring myself to do this. I've worked so hard. Every day I've tried to, at least I say like, oh mom, just sit down and listen to me play this. And when my family's over, guys, just
mm,
listen. I get nervous for that as well. I'm like, okay, just listen. Then my friends would come over, I'd play for them. So opening up to a stage and an audience was so much. And the reward, not just because it was the prize that it was, but just the reward for being there with all the musicians, everyone, appreciating the work that we do, was amazing. So from then on, I'm not saying that like it's gone, like my performance anxiety has left, like it hasn't, but it showed me that that was the first step, and I can do this. If I work hard, I can do this. I'm my biggest critique.
mm.
So slowly I started, whenever they'd ask me to play, I'd be like, yeah, sure, play here, like different places. With the choir, I'd sing in smaller groups. And yeah, and I've always loved like modeling. I've always been asked to do like fashion shows and stuff before Miss Gibraltar. And I'd get so nervous. I think to myself, Faith, you're literally walking. Like you walk down the street every single day. Like pull yourself together. But there's something, it's so, modeling and pageantry is so different.
Yeah.
Because for me, modeling, it's about the art, the clothes,
Yeah.
and you're showcasing someone's work. A pageant is you. It's you.
Showcasing yourself.
You're showcasing yourself. And for someone with a lot of anxiety, that's very difficult because you're sometimes in a bit of a battle with yourself. So if you can't be your own number one fan, it's a bit like, how do I expect everyone else to support me if I find it hard to support myself? So yeah, entering Miss Gib was like the ultimate challenge for me because it's me trying. I have to be the best I can be, not for myself, but for the show. And everyone in Gibraltar, again, everyone knows who you are. Everyone knows like your family and stuff. So I had a lot. I knew everyone was going to be watching. There was so much support. So again, it's like a bit of pressure. Like, oh, I hope they like it. I hope I don't let anyone down. But no, yeah, I'm super glad that I did it because even if whatever way the crown would have gone, I still did it. Like I did the show from start to finish. So I was super proud of myself for doing that. And every day and every event will get easier when they ask me to speak, like on GBC, which is the BBC of Gibraltar. When they ask me to speak on GBC, again, I get so nervous, but I'm like, I have to say yes because every time does get easier. Yeah. Not that much, but a little bit, it does get easier each time. And I have to prepare because in Miss World, they're not going to care. They're just going to be like, you have to speak. You have to say something. And I want to share my journey and my projects and everything that I do. I want to share that with everyone. But I have to, it's almost as if I have to get past myself to do that. You know what I mean? Like I'm standing in my own way, but I can't help it. And in my head, I'm like, girl, get over yourself. Like, you've got this. You constantly prove you work hard and it pays off. So I just have to keep that train of thought. I work hard. It will come back. The hard work will come back around to repay me in some way.
I think just going back to what you said about your hands shaking when you're playing the piano and it being like not the best symptom to have. You're a pianist. I'm a violinist. As a violinist, shaking is even worse because at least because with a piano, you hit a key. The violin, if you're shaking by like a millimeter or so, it's gonna sound awful.
Change.
I've performed on some pretty big stages. I mean, I don't play anymore, but like the Sydney Opera House here, and getting on stage, and you look into this vast sea of black, and you can't see anyone, but they're out there. And I don't know about you, but for me, the classical music, sort of not the industry, but we'll call it the industry. Everything has to be so precise. You know what I mean? Like even like in concerts, there are times when you're allowed to clap and you're not supposed to clap, and if you clap at the wrong time, people judge you.
Yeah. They always invite me. So in Gibraltar, when there's like sometimes we have classical, like either like a symphony orchestra or a classical musician. They come over, and being like a classical musician in like the public eye, I would get invited to these things, but I wouldn't know like when to clap and not to clap. I remember we were in up the rock in St. Michael's Cave. It's like a massive cave and it's got a stage. The Miss Gibraltar used to be held in there. Like back in the day, used to be held in there. So the acoustics in there are so beautiful that whenever an orchestra comes, usually they opt to go into that theatre instead of any of the others we have. And everything echoes in there. I remember they finished one movement. You're not supposed to clap between movements, no? Something like that. And after the first one, I loved it so much. I was like,
oh, no.
And then I noticed I was the only one. I was like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing is this? But yeah, I just like hit myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never doing that again. And now when I go to one of these events, I literally sit with my hands on my lap and I'm not going to clap to someone else does.
You're not supposed to clap between movements. But you reserve your applause for the end of the whole thing.
I know.
But
I learned that the hard
people,
way.
yeah, see, classical music is, if you talk about performance anxiety, I think like classical music is a game of millimeters, not even.
Yeah.
Like you play one wrong note in an entire piece, and your brain can just get fixated on that one wrong note you
One
played,
wrong note.
and the chances are probably no one else heard it, although it's classical music,
Yeah.
so maybe someone did. But I mean, it's very true when you say you're your own worst critic. I don't think
Mhm.
that's unique to you, but I did speak to someone recently who said you're always going to be your worst critic. So what you have to do is be your own best friend as well, be your
Yeah.
biggest cheerleader, which I thought was a very interesting concept, that you could be both your biggest critic
Yeah.
and your
Yeah.
biggest cheerleader at the same time. But I just want to back up and ask you, because obviously you're young, you're model, you're now Miss Gibraltar, and you're saying that you deal with anxiety. Now,
Yeah.
I know from experience with my young friends in pageantry who've dealt with it, there's, we'll call it a stigma or like a stereotype.
Yeah.
People look at someone who's young, seemingly high achieving, and they
Mhm.
go, "What the hell is she talking about? She can't have
Yeah. Yeah.
anxiety. Like, she wouldn't be on the stage or be a model. She had anxiety. So she's just making this
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
thing up." Have you dealt with any of that?
Yeah. I mean, I say to people, look, I'm a really shy. I'd consider myself a shy person, but I
Mm,
just almost force myself to not be. I force myself out there because it's something that I want to do, something that I
yeah.
love doing. And I feel like being someone with anxiety, I I think many girls and anyone for that matter can
Mm,
see themselves in me. And I just want them to know that your mental health, regardless of what it is that you're dealing with, doesn't define you. It doesn't put a barrier into your success. That only happens if you allow it to happen. Like as out of control as sometimes it can seem, you think, oh, I've got nothing under control, like everything's up in the air. You can control how you perceive yourself. You can control how you manage these stresses. So I think it's important that you identify triggers. Like for me,
mm,
it's I I think it's fear of messing up or fear of being judged or not liked or something of that sort, because it's been so long that I've been like that with myself. So I'm like, I hope
mm,
everyone likes me and they don't see through this, or I hope, you know what I mean? So I think everyone just has to identify and recognize that they have anxiety or whatever it is that they have. So that way you can navigate around the situation with more of an insight. You know what I mean? Because, for example, when I'm feeling really anxious, it makes me think really irrationally. And so when I start spiraling, my head starts spiraling, I'm like,
yeah.
okay, this is me being anxious. I literally stop. I'm like, okay, I have to stop because I'm thinking completely irrationally.
Yeah.
If you're not aware that you have anxiety or something, you let that spiral continue.
Of course.
So I think it's important that again, you make yourself your own cheerleader and think, look, everything's okay. I have this, but it's not who I am. It just so happens to be a characteristic of mine that I'm in control of because I
Mm,
say so. And that might seem very difficult in the moment, but you are in control ultimately, and you have to again be your own support system because you are with yourself for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not. So you have to work on the person that you are. Like I always think whenever I'm going through something, I think, what would I tell my best friend? I take
mm,
emotion out of it a bit and I think, what would I tell my best friend? Would I advise her like this, like that? And then I try and apply it to myself. And I think it really helps. It really helps because you almost detach yourself from the anxiety and you see it from an outside perspective. So yeah, when I thought about doing all this, I was like, yes, I've got anxiety, but it doesn't define me, and I'm not gonna allow it to get in the way of everything that I want to do. And I think it's needed. These conversations need to be had,
mm,
especially in public with public profiles,
yeah.
because it just shows that you can do anything, regardless of what you have. You can do anything. And I want to show that if you've got anxiety or if you've got, stage fright or whatever, if you really want to do something, you have the passion to do it. If you work hard and dedicate your time into not perfecting, because nothing's perfect, but if you dedicate your time
Yeah.
into what you want to do and working on yourself so you can be the best for what you do, nothing should get in the way. But you have to have that acceptance of yourself and cheer yourself on first. You can't expect everyone to cheer for you if
Of
you can't
course.
cheer for yourself.
Yeah. But you haven't, from the sounds of it, you haven't let this really get in your way at all. And I think that's not only like a great thing, but it's something that I'm curious about because obviously you deal with performance anxiety, particularly with being on stage. But it seems to me there's some quality in you that doesn't let that stop
Yeah,
you. So what is
because
that quality that doesn't let that get in the way? Is it stubbornness? Is it courage? Is it grit? What is that other
I think
quality?
I always think if I have a mentality of why not me? If I watch other girls, I'm like, why them and not me? You know what I mean? When I see people up on stage, musicians, I'm like, I can do that. I've worked to do things like this. Why can't I do it? And there's no answer to it. Why can't I do it? I can.
Yeah.
And I've always, tried to propel myself forward. Again, like I'd say to my friend, like, you have got nothing to worry about. Everyone's on your side. As much as you might not think it, everyone's there to support you and help you. And you have to, I won't let it get in my way because it's it's something that I can control and it's something that I want to do. And I
Mm.
won't, as difficult as it is at times, I won't let it get in the way. Obviously, I have moments. I'm not saying
We
I've
all
gone
have
to
moments.
every single event I've been invited to. I've had my days,
Yeah.
where I think it's best to just maybe stay home, go to the
Of
gym,
course.
do a little self
Yeah.
care and stuff, which is absolutely needed. But whenever I'm given the chance to, I always think why I see everyone else do it. I'm not less than anyone else. We're all equal here. So why
Mm.
can't I do it too if I want to?
It's a very interesting mindset to have, and
Mm,
I only say interesting because I have the exact same mindset.
yeah.
Um, when it came to tennis, I'll keep a long story short, but I taught myself tennis, and I wasn't gifted at it by any means. I had a very
Mm,
academic schooling, so sports was very, very far in the background. But I had that exact same mindset: like, if someone else can do it, why not me? So I started looking
yeah.
at people who I thought were really good at it and then emulating them as best I could and got a
Mhm,
lot further than probably further than I had any right to. I want to ask, in that book that I mentioned before, I interviewed a woman who had my hairdresser actually, who
mm,
had extreme depression,
mm,
clinically diagnosed bipolar, was on medication,
mm,
and before it was diagnosed, she would be told things like, "I'll just go and walk it off." Right, so
mm.
clinically depressed, and someone would
Yeah.
say, and I don't mean it's like ill-intentioned advice. It was said with the
No.
best intention, but it's said with a misunderstanding as to just what depression is and how
Yeah.
real it is, and it's not just
Yeah. Yeah.
something that's in your mind. And I just want to ask with anxiety, because I've suffered from depression. I have been suicidal twice. I outlined that in that book. I haven't
Mhm.
suffered from anxiety as much. So I just wanted to ask, have you had similar experiences when you are anxious and people give you well-intentioned advice without really understanding what it means to be anxious?
Yeah. Sometimes the advice thing is I take everything with a pinch of salt
Okay.
because I know it's my mind telling me, you just feel trapped. You feel like the world is
Yeah.
moving quickly and you can't catch up. It's a
Yeah.
very difficult emotion to describe because everyone experiences it slightly differently.
Yeah.
So it feels like you're in a glass tank and the water's rising and you don't know what to do. And as time goes on, you get more nervous because it's coming up and you're looking for
Yeah.
anything to just drain the water out, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And sometimes when people speak, no matter what they say, if I don't
Doesn't
drain
help.
that water myself, it's not going down. So, people try and they say, oh, but it's okay. Like, and in my head, I know it's okay. I know they're speaking, they're making sense, but you can't, when you're within the constraints of your own mind, you can't see
Mm.
beyond that until it kind of passes by. But the only thing you can do in those moments is have some sort of understanding, like, okay, this is that moment. I just have to sit
Yeah.
down to it. It will pass. I always think this will pass. It will pass. It might
Mm.
take 10 minutes, it might take a couple hours, but this will pass because it has done. I've survived it every single time. So why wouldn't
Yeah.
it this time round? So that's what I always think.
So if there's someone out there who has a friend who's
Mm.
anxious, would you be able to give obviously it's individual. That's part
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
challenge with it. But if someone they know is being anxious or having even, let's say, a panic attack, what sort of advice could you give them?
Yeah.
I'll preface that by saying with depression, I often tell people that people are worried about talking to someone who's depressed because they think it will make it worse, or they think they have to have a solution. I will say, no, no, no. You just need
No.
to be there and you need to
Just be
listen,
there,
not
yeah.
listen to respond, which is
Just
different,
listen.
but listen to understand and just
Yeah,
be
yeah.
there.
I always
So,
tell my friends, like, if you need someone to talk at, like, if you
yes.
don't want a response, because sometimes, that can sway. If you don't want me to respond, you just need to get
Mm,
something off your chest, you can talk at me,
yeah.
and I'll be there to listen to every word. You just need someone to listen. And in
Yeah.
something like, if someone's having like a panic attack, anxiety attack, in the moment, the mind is thinking so irrationally. The mind is so
Mm,
far from the thinking with such a distorted filter.
yeah.
Not much that you say will get through, will register in that moment. So you have to be there, listen to them, understand them, try and, what would you do in that situation? And
Mm,
try and calm them down in a way that doesn't disregard their feelings. Like, don't say something like,
mm,
"Oh, but it's okay. It's okay." Like, don't
yeah.
be like this. There's no need. Like, don't, just be there. Tell them everything's okay. Tell them that they are fine. Like, this is so normal. I always tell my friends, like, it's so normal to feel this way. Don't think
Mm,
now. Don't get scared of, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was my reaction. Many people
yeah.
have anxiety attacks, panic attacks at different degrees, but
Yeah.
many people have it. And it's an emotion that makes you feel very isolated. You think no one understands what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Many people understand what you're feeling to different degrees, obviously, with
Of
different
course.
situations. But chances are the person you're speaking to at some point will be
Mm,
anxious, nervous. Mental health is something that affects everyone at one point,
yeah.
unfortunately. Whether it's you're nervous for a job or some financial issue, family, anything,
Yeah.
it will
Yeah.
affect everyone. And the challenging thing is you can't see it. It's
Mm,
not like when someone breaks their leg, you can see it. You're like, oh, you can't see it. But that's the difficulty of it. And I always urge everyone, if you are struggling mentally with anything, reach out for help to people you trust, people who aren't going to judge you in any way. Because if you reach
yeah.
out to someone who is then like judgmental or disregards you,
Yeah.
it can do the opposite effect. I always say, talk to someone who supports you, who accepts you and loves you,
Yeah.
and if not, speak to a professional. Because
Yeah.
if for me, if someone's going through something mentally and they don't speak to a professional, it's like breaking your wrist. I'm not getting a cast on it. You have to
Mm,
heal in a proper way. If not, it's going to leave scars that will reopen in the future if you don't, close those chapters properly. So I just tell everyone who's dealing with it, you are not alone. It's so normal. And speak about it, because the more you speak about it, the less isolated you'll feel. If you have a friend or a family member, someone who's going through this, just be understanding. They're not trying to be rude by canceling plans. They're not
mm,
being selfish by staying by themselves at home. Like, it's not that. It's they're doing anything that they can, anything that they see fit that will fix this wave of whatever it is that they're going through. And in general, I think everyone just has to be more thoughtful of one another, because we're
mm,
very quick to judge. We're very quick to say, oh, well, this person didn't show up to work because they don't feel like coming or whatever. But no, maybe that person is going through something you have no idea about.
yeah.
And it
Yeah.
shows in different ways. Like, again, everyone says, you don't seem like you're an anxious,
Yeah.
shy person. And I'm
You
like,
can't be
you
anxious.
have no idea.
Yeah.
You
You
have
hide
no
it well.
idea. But just we all just have to be kind to one another, because you don't know what someone's going through. You never do. So just, treat others like you would want to be treated. And that's that. I think if everyone was more loving and empathetic of each other, the world would just be, just spin with love instead, which is all we could ever hope for.
I've asked this of several people. Um, do you feel optimistic about that? We live in a very divided world
Yeah.
at the moment, and we have social media,
Yeah.
which, amazing as it is, comes with its own set of
Of
dangers. I
course.
think that's increased judgment, and I think that's increased the danger of comparison as in you
Yes.
open social media and it's almost like you can't help it. Like you see it and you see someone's
Mhm.
post and they look like they're living the life, they're crushing it, and you immediately go, "Oh, but I'm not doing that, and I should be doing that or
Yeah,
do
yeah.
better than them." So, how optimistic are you that, let's say, in the next 10 years, 20 years, that we really can sort of turn a corner and walk away from this sort of divisive path that
Mhm.
we're going down and bring it back
Mhm.
to, as you said, like just being kind to one another or
Yeah,
understanding? It
yeah.
seems so basic. Yet at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't think we're going towards that at the moment. I feel like
I
we're walking away from it.
I think everything's becoming more like we live in the world of social media. We are
Yeah.
more time on our phone and we project a certain life on social media that's different
Yeah.
to the life that we have really. So people who know me, for example, on Instagram alone will describe me way differently to my best friends who know I'm nervous and shy and like so we live in a world that's again comparison and stuff like that, but I think
Mm.
we have to have some sort of insight to it and just think like I always see photos and I think, oh my gosh, I don't look like that. I don't look like I need to do this or I need to do that, and I think I don't look like that, but chances are neither does the girl in the photo. She
More than
doesn't
likely.
actually look like that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I can't compare. I look at my profile and I think, how can I make my profile better to describe me?
Mm.
And how do I want this to look? I don't look at anyone else's. Well, I do, but I don't. I try not to like compare anything.
Yeah.
But in the world, I mean, everyone's just so, I don't know what word I'd use to describe it. Everyone's not selfish, but everyone is so on their own path that they're inconsiderate to
Yeah.
the others. And I've always said, you
Yeah.
do whatever makes you happy. You can
Mm.
be whoever you want, do whatever makes you happy, as long as you don't hurt anyone in the process.
Mm.
And I feel like some people forget that last bit. And we go about our lives and it's like, well, I'm happy. It doesn't affect, I'm good. I'm happy. So be it.
Yeah.
But coming from a place like Gibraltar, like as a global issue, coming from a place like Gibraltar, we're a multicultural, multi-religious society. We always have been. We always will
Mm.
be. And in our main square, we have a cathedral, a synagogue, and a mosque
Oh,
in a
wow.
tiny radius. And I love how
That's amazing.
we all go to our different
Mm.
places of worship, we do our own thing, and then we all sit in Little Rock Cafe and have a drink together. And I just see, if I can see such acceptance and all these worlds working as one, because in Gibraltar we're very united. Whatever is thrown at us, whether it's harsh border control, Brexit, whatever it is, we all support each other. And I think that's why we always come back stronger. Like, we are the tiniest place,
Mm.
but we say like we stand tall, we like a rock, and nothing is going to make us down. But that is because we are each other's number one fan, and we respect each other, and we work together. And if I can see that on such a small scale, I find it so hard to understand why it can't happen on a
Mm.
larger scale, why other countries can't be like that. They're so divided. But again, maybe it's easier to be divided when you don't know each other so much. I think that's one of the
Possibly.
benefits of being in a place like Gibraltar. You love everyone because you know them. They're your neighbor. You went to school with them.
Mm.
You know everyone. You don't know everyone like personally, but you know of everyone. So you've got a lot of love to give there, and we all support each other. And I just don't know why the rest of the world can't learn from something from a little rock. We've got a lot to show, and it's a shame that most people don't know that much about us.
I think you should work if there is a Gibraltarian tourist board. I think you should work for them
My
because
dad's
the
a
way
tour
you well,
guide.
there you go. Because the way you
My
spoke
dad
just
is a
made me
guide.
want to go and visit Gibraltar. I mean, the picture
Yeah,
you just painted of those 3 different places of worship, that
yeah.
that is particularly striking to me
Yeah,
because
we have,
religion
because
is one of
we're the entrance to the Mediterranean. So
mm,
obviously there was a time that Gibraltar was just a bit of a no man's land kind of thing. So just there, just a rock. It wasn't really. Now it's reclaimed, so it looks a bit bigger for me. Gibraltar's decently sized, but it's because it's like reclaimed. At first, it was just whatever was within the city walls.
yeah.
That was the city. That's it. And it's, I think there's more area. There's more. It's a fact that there's more area inside the rock than outside the rock, and
Mm,
it takes longer to go up the rock than across Gibraltar. So we were just this tiny little place, but if you wanted to enter from the Atlantic, or if you wanted to leave the Mediterranean, you'd have to cross us.
Yeah.
And in the time of like when people were traveling and stuff like that, many people stayed there. So we have a mix of so many different cultures, so many different ethnicities that we've all just kind of blended into our own little thing. But it's easy to, because I've lived with it so much, and every, like my school friend, my neighbor, we all look different, but we all live the same, not the same lives, but we're all in the same place, accepting each other, being with each other, learning together. That this whole disparity of like, you know what I'm trying to say, this division of different like cultures and stuff, for me just doesn't make sense. I'd never look at someone differently because they look different, they sound different. You know, in university, again, I sounded so strange compared to everyone else. I went there thinking, oh, I don't have an accent. I don't have an accent at all. Because obviously everyone in Gibraltar more or less speaks like me. I was like, oh, that's I speak English. Like, and then I got there and everyone was like, where do you come from? And, you know, I'd never, because I've lived in the environment that I do, it's very easy to accept and see different cultures because I see it every day at home. And not only do I see it every day, I'm part of it. It's something that we all share. For example, it was Ramadan recently, and I was invited to break the fast in some places because, you know, they invite like different public figures sometimes. So I was invited, I take part. We all celebrate Christmas. We all do the events for different like Diwali and stuff like that. We're all there in the main street. Like we all celebrate together because of course we come from different places, but we're all Gibraltarian. So we love and support each other in that way, and we can relate to each other in that way. Like you can celebrate your festival. I'm here to like applaud you and celebrate with you. And it's nothing that I would ever stop. Like, yes, I believe in something different, but I still see the beauty in yours. And as long as you don't, you know, infringe on mine, great. You know, I'll be there to support you. So I wish more people and other countries, bigger countries, could think in the same way. Because I think a lot of just a lot of tension that there is out there in simple things like that would really ease if everyone had the mindset that we do.
I think what you've just highlighted is the difficulty when you don't live with something, when you don't understand it, because you know we all lead busy lives, and sometimes we don't seek to understand other people. You guys all live in such a small area that you have, I think, grown to learn that you guys have more in common than you have that's different, and I think that has helped you guys unify. Have you given any thought to how you, because I mean you spoke really beautifully about it and I think it's a very powerful message. Have you given any thought to how you could represent that message on the international stage?
It's a difficult one because I'm one person. I'm one person with my own like background, you know what I mean? Like, you know, the surname Torres is quite like Hispanic, so obviously I can't relate to like the Arabic surnames and stuff. It would be very difficult for me to do that because it's not my, let's say, my ethnicity or whatever. But I will always, whenever asked, I will always highlight the fact that we are a mixed city, and we always have been and we always will be, and nothing will get, I think we've created our own little culture from that. Gibraltarians stem from that. There's no look to a Gibraltarian. There's no, you know what I mean? Some of like my best friends, two of my best friends are blonde with blue eyes, and then I look like this. And then, you know, we all look different. So we've just stemmed from many different beautiful cultures, and it's just come together in harmony, and it's something that I'll always highlight because it's very important.
If I cast your mind forward to Miss World itself, and let's say lightning strikes twice and you are crowned as Miss World, and as we discussed, there's precedent, 2009, Gibraltar won. What would you do?
What would I do? What wouldn't I do? I do everything I can. I think obviously realistically, one tiny voice from the tiniest place isn't gonna make a difference, like isn't gonna change the world. But if I'm given the chance to be a catalyst in some sort of way forward, like obviously given a platform that big, people are gonna listen to you. So as long as I, you know, speak positive messages down one of the world's biggest microphones. Hopefully that will resonate with some people, and we get more people on board to make specific changes. I'm very
Mm.
heavy on the charity side of things. I've helped with countless charities in Gibraltar. I try and do everything because I like it. I meet different people, I learn about different charities, and it helps so many people. That I do a lot of charity work, I think, and obviously I'd want to be representative of women from small places. I'd be representative. Everyone thinks like, oh, you're only going to represent 30,000 people. I'm like, yes, but I also represent people from small places. I represent people, British citizens. I represent
Yeah.
people who are a bit mixed. I represent, there's Gibraltarians can represent a lot. And also being a girl who has struggled with anxiety for so long. And it's the perfect example of it doesn't define you, and
Yeah.
it's not a barrier to your success if you don't allow it to. So yeah, I'd just be an advocate for all these different things that I've been through, and I've come out the other end because I want people to feel the same. And
Yeah.
in terms of Gibraltar, I want everyone to see like all these positive sides. I want people to see that, and a platform like Miss World would be amazing. And obviously I'd advocate for women in science. I'd do stuff like that. Hopefully, I'd do little music related things, but it's still a long way away. And obviously Gibraltar's only placed twice, so I'm just gonna go have a great time, meet everyone, and yeah, I'll obviously just do the best I can. That's all I could have asked of myself.
You mentioned that one of your role models was Marie Curie,
Yeah.
the female scientist. Do you want to tell the audience why? They may not be familiar with your background.
So she was the first woman to win a Nobel Peace Prize from science, and she discovered two elements. I think it's radium.
Radium was one of them.
Radium was one
Radium,
of
I can't
them.
remember the other. Yeah.
I can't remember the other one, but radium was one, and that's the whole, radioactive side of healthcare, so like radiology and stuff like that. Without
Mm.
her work and her discoveries, we probably wouldn't have everything that we have today. And it's just at a time where women were so, put to the sidelines kind of thing, for her to say no, like this, I'm equal and I can do this, and look at all the work I've done. It doesn't stop me just because I'm a woman. You're not going to listen to what I
Yeah.
say. That happened in science quite a lot back in the day, like ages ago.
Years ago.
Like years ago. Yeah, I think she's a perfect example of like perseverance and saying, I know, I trust in myself. I know I've worked hard, and this is something that everyone has to know. And thank God that she took that path, because we have so many scientific discoveries and breakthroughs because of certain elements like the ones she discovered that have helped in medicine or in some sort of healthcare rehabs that
Yeah.
we wouldn't have today. So I look up to people who, despite what life throws at them, even at the time it was just being a woman, despite what life throws at them, they persevere and they say, no, like I've got an important message and everyone has to hear it one way or another.
Yeah. Did you know that her notes and all her memorabilia, it's all encased in lead because it became
Yeah.
so contaminated with radiation that it's unsafe
Yeah, lead
to
is
sort of touch.
one of the most impermeable
Yeah.
elements. Yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
think it's fascinating that, I mean, she made such groundbreaking discoveries, which ultimately didn't turn out so well for her health-wise,
Yeah.
but
But
she's made
we
such a
didn't
lasting
understand much
impression.
at that time.
No, no, when you're
So she didn't
discovering it.
know any better.
No, none of us would have.
Mm.
Faith, just before we move towards the end and the final 10, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey?
Oh my gosh. I get
The
nervous with these
stage is
questions because I'm
yours.
like, who do I have? Got so many people to thank. Well, firstly, I'd thank obviously my friends and my family for being so supportive from the beginning to the end. I want to shout out to my niece Isabel for convincing me to join Miss Gibraltar because she did Miss Teen.
Right.
And she's like, it's the best thing. I've had so much fun. Like, and I want to give a shout out to her, my director Kelvin, for being, my biggest supporter in everything that I do. And everyone who's made this possible, from makeup artists to hairstylists, everyone who helps me in my everyday, all the charities that I'm constantly being invited to. Thank you, because your messages are important, and I want to, give you a platform. I want to share my platform with people who make a difference, like
Mm.
who work for charities. So yeah, and shout out to Gibraltar. You're just so cool, and I'm so grateful for your unwavering support. Everyone is so supportive, and I couldn't ask for much more.
Just a quick one. If there are some charities out there who would like to work with you, what's the best way to get in touch? Instagram, email?
My main social media platform is Instagram. There's
Okay.
a Facebook page, but I don't have access to that. I think only the directors have access to that. Me personally, get to my Instagram either through the Miss Gibraltar official one or the Faith Torres one.
Yep.
And my email is linked onto the profile. So
Perfect.
whenever, like, honestly, and even if it's not like an official thing, like, my DMs are
Mhm.
open. Anyone, if you're going through anything and don't know who to speak to, I always say I'm there to help. My DMs are open, and like, I know what it is, so I will be there to support you. So please, if you want to message me, don't hesitate. We can talk about whatever you want.
Perfect. Well, let's go through these final 10 questions and then we can get you to lunch. What's for lunch, by the way, today?
So hungry. I'm not sure. I'm
Don't tell
thinking
me burgers
Italian.
or
I'm always
nuggets.
thinking Italian.
I don't understand people who don't like Italian food. I'll
Yeah,
just state that
literally.
much. It's like the best cuisine. Final 10 questions. Number one, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word. Hmm. This is difficult because I speak two languages, so there's loads of words.
You have more to choose from. It doesn't
I
have
have
to be in English,
loads
by the
to
way.
choose from. Well, I think the word Janita, because that is like our slang for Gibraltarian. It's Janito, Janita. Only a few people know. It's also the name of the dialect that we speak, even though it's less than a certain number of people. It's a dead language. We started as a dead language. But anyway, I love it. I'd always say I'm proud to be Janita. On National Day, I write Janita down my arm.
Perfect. How do you spell it?
LLANITA.
That is not what I thought it was going to be.
I
Okay.
know, I know. And I like that it's a Gibraltarian word.
Wow. That you know what's so weird about that is that that's similar to Welsh spelling. Welsh
Yeah,
spelling starts with a
yeah,
lot of consonants and a lot
yeah,
of like no vowels. That sounds
yeah.
very
The
Welsh.
double L in
Fascinating.
Spanish is yeah,
Yeah.
but Southern accent, it turns into a bit of a zh. It's a bit harsher. So yeah, Janita, Yanita, you can
Okay.
say it however you want, but yeah, it's a double L.
Okay. All right. Well, number two, what is your least favorite word?
Oh my gosh, there was a word I couldn't say very well. I don't remember when I went to uni, everyone was like, "What?" I think it was. I can't say the word compilation. I can't say it.
Compilation.
Compilation. I can't. It just doesn't come out. It's something that I try to avoid saying.
Okay. Well, the more you speak it, probably the worse it gets. So
Yeah.
we'll move on. Number three in life. What gets you excited? What turns you on?
Excited, like, I think when I'm looking forward to something, you know what I mean? Like, to either, I always try and have something to look forward to. Because if not, I don't
Mm,
want to get into my own head about things. Like, even if I make one goal every single day, I try and meet those goals. So what gets me excited, I love making like little plans for my day. I've got this little board up in my room with every day and every week I tear off the thing, and I
yeah.
have everything color coded. I'm a bit of a nerd like that. I have everything color coded. So yeah, it gets me excited when I can sit down like on a Sunday and I'm like, next week, and I start writing everything down, because it gives me things to look forward to. It gets me up in
Yeah.
the morning. It gets me excited to go meet different people, work on myself, do different things. So yeah, I think in a more condensed way, being, well prepared and being, having something to look forward to
Yeah.
always, you know, gets me up
Yeah.
and gets me moving.
You sound like a goal-focused person.
Yeah, driven.
Um, so that was what turns you on. Number four, what turns you off?
Hmm. Oh, when people are disrespectful, unmotivated, when people try and get in the way, try and put doubts in my mind. One of those things, when it might be a stupid thing, but when the vibe is just off. When you enter a room and you're like, you guys are sad today, there's something is up, and everyone, it just doesn't, not everyone is in harmony in that moment. It's like a bit of a pressure. I feel pressure. I don't want to be there.
I describe it. I describe those people as people who can suck the energy out of the room. Like
Yeah.
that, whatever
You can
room they
suck
go
it into
into,
a
it just
room. Like,
all the
even if I'm
energy
in
is
a
gone.
low mood or whatever, I'd rather just sit quietly than say
Yeah,
something negative.
yeah,
I'd rather sit
absolutely.
quietly than say something negative. So when people don't choose that, I'm like, why? Why have you decided to be like this?
Well, because misery loves company. That's why.
Yeah.
Number 5. What sound or noise do you love?
Sound or noise? I can tell you one I hate.
That's the next
That's the
question.
next question. Okay, well,
That's the
okay.
next question.
A sound I love the sound. This is probably because I'm from Gibraltar, but I love the sound of the ocean
Yes.
crashing onto the sand.
Yeah.
It's so
100%.
relaxing. There are some
Yeah.
days in summer where you can go so early to the beach and it's so peaceful. And
Mm.
it's just so soothing. You hear the birds going over the straits. It's so, so nice. I love that natural environment of the nature, the sound of nature in whatever form. The sounds of nature is just so
Everyone in the
soothing.
UK is just hating on you right now because
Yeah.
there's nowhere in the UK
Oh
where
my
you can have
gosh.
that happening. Australia probably, but not the UK.
Probably. Everyone who's landlocked is like, really, girl?
Yeah,
You had to go
exactly.
there, but yeah.
Okay. Then the next question, which you predicted, what sound or
Oh
noise do you
my god.
hate?
This sounds stupid, but I think everyone with an iPhone can relate. The iPhone gives a notification when it believes that your music is too loud. And it turns the music down for you. And it's so annoying because I have my headphones on. I'm there, like in the gym, or I'm walking somewhere, I'm like bopping to my own vibe. And then all of a sudden I hear dring and the music switches off. Like, it goes really quiet. And then I look at my phone and it says sounds and haptics. And it's like, your volume is very loud or something of those lines. And I'm like, well, I didn't ask you to turn it down. I don't know why. So I always turn it back up. Like, no matter how many times it gives me that notification, I'm like, I don't know. I'm having a great time, having my own little silent disco, having a great time. And it just gets annoying. Oh,
You can turn that off. That feature, you can turn it off.
really?
Yeah, I turned it off on mine because I don't like being told when my music is too loud, so I turned it
Exactly.
off.
Well, I wasn't clever enough to to try
I
turn it
don't.
off. I just thought it was there all the time. I thought, oh my gosh, how annoying.
When you need your loud music, you need your loud music. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Question number 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
It's probably not like the wisest superpower. I could probably go more interesting, but I would
Okay.
like teleport because I take so long to get ready. I'm one of those people who arrives like just on time, and it's an awful quality to have. I know, I'm aware, but I get so stressed out. Like, what am I going to wear? I hope I get there on time that I always go late. So if I could just ready and back into the place, I think it would, ease the stress, and it would, the times that I do go late, it would like save me from a lot of embarrassment. So yeah, teleportation. And also I could go wherever I want, whenever I want. Just be like, I'm in the mood for Italian. Rome.
Mm, mm.
That would
I'm
be
getting
amazing. That would be
hungry
the
now.
dream. Whenever I
Um,
had to go to university to study, the whole plane that way
yeah.
and plane back, it was just, it's just not necessary. It's obviously necessary, but I didn't like going through it, right?
Unless you plan on walking or running yourself,
Yeah.
it's necessary.
I'll swim. It's fine. No, that would have been amazing. Done. Yeah, uni. Go back home every week. If I could do that, I'd be up here every weekend. Because there were times where there it's freezing cold, and here
Mm,
it was nice and sunny. I'd see my friends on
yep,
Instagram like going out, and I'm like, guys, I'm
yep.
freezing. I'm freezing here. If I could just snap in and out of places, that would be amazing.
No one has ever said, "Oh my god, the UK weather is fantastic." That is not a sentence that has ever
No,
been said
ever, ever.
in history and will ever be said unless something goes catastrophically wrong with global warming.
We're
Um,
seeing the effects of that already because last summer there were houses on fire, temperatures
mm,
were outrageous in the UK. Yeah, roads were melting. It was bad, and unfortunately, that's going to be the coldest summer from now on.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, dare I ask how long it takes you to get ready? You said it takes you forever to get ready. Are we talking
Is I can
hours?
be like, no, not hours, but I
That's
have
not that
very
bad
like,
then. Come on.
no, it's not hours. It's not hours because okay, so I know I can't do my makeup that well. So I keep it to the bare minimum. Like today,
Mhm.
mascara and eyeliner. Because I know I'm not that good. So if I keep it to the basics, I can't go that
Yep.
wrong.
Yeah.
And but there are some times where I'm like, right, I have to actually do the whole thing. And because I'm so cautious with everything I do, because I know I'm not the most artistic person, it just takes me so long. Like my makeup could take me 45 minutes, an hour. And then my hair now looks quite tame. I've done the straightener and it looks like this. So yeah, my hair takes quite long as well, especially in Jib. The end's quite sticky because we get all the salt water
Humidity
everywhere.
and the
The
more, yeah.
humidity, it's so sticky that my hair is like it loves to do this. So when I come out in like a slick ponytail or a slick
Yeah.
bun, I didn't have time to do my hair firstly, or the weather is not it.
Yeah. Number 8. What job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Ooh, I'd go really out there with something like this. I'd say like a pilot or something.
A
Something that
pilot.
I
Not
know,
not a
yeah.
pirate. A
No,
pilot,
no, a
not a
pilot,
pirate.
like with a plane.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you
I'd
said
go
pirate.
something
Like,
really out there, something really daring because I'd say I'm quite safe in my lab. My lab, in the lab, doing my little tests, taking the little things, calling, getting the notes from doctors and stuff. It's very fun, but you know, doing something like flying a plane. I don't know. It's just something that I'd never imagine myself doing. And if I do that, I try and land it in Gibraltar because apparently it's one of the most difficult runways to land on. Everyone
on
says
that
that.
run
It's
on
like,
that
no,
runway
yeah,
that's got a
because
street going
that,
across it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That
We've
would be
got
something.
the crosswinds coming from either side of the rock, and we've got the north face of the rock. So we've got this massive meter, like 400, 500 meter mountain right next to you can't have high buildings next to runways. So we
No.
don't have, but we do have the highest thing, like the biggest thing. But yeah, apparently it's really difficult, and there's not much space as well. Like I
No, it's
remember,
only
I always,
1,700 meters long,
I
apparently.
always get scared. Like whenever they start the descending pattern, I always look out the window. I'm like, I'm so close to the water right now. I'm like, but it happens every single time. It's something I can't get used to. I'm like, I'm so close to the water, and then all of a sudden we hit a runway,
Mm.
and the brakes are literally slammed because we have a certain amount of
It's
space. So
short.
you see everyone
Yeah.
in the plane go boom, like forward, like that. But yeah,
So
I'd do a job that's really out there and really daring and brave.
have you ever jumped out of a plane?
No. Oh my god, no. How scary. It might be something that I want to try someday. Just to say that I've done it. It's one of those things like, yeah, I've done this. But oof, you really have to have some courage. You have to really have bravery to
It's
go and
it's
do something like that.
it's not difficult. You just have to you just get kicked out the plane. I will say that I think Dubai has some very good
I
skydiving.
know. Maybe when I'm there. Mentally prepare myself now. I've got some time.
What about number 9? What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Ooh. Thing is, I'm someone that's open to learning so many different things. Like I'm not really opposed to anything, and I think you know I wouldn't do anything that is like, how do I explain it? I wouldn't want to be a politician or anything like that because you're always treading on dangerous ground. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to have the responsibility of so many people's lives and future in my
Yeah.
hands. But I think I don't know, it's because I don't, again, back to the whole anxiety, I don't trust myself. I don't know if I could do that. Chances are if I probably work towards it and work hard,
Yeah.
it would be a difficult thing to get into because it's generally you could have all the qualifications and it is a difficult thing to get into.
Of course.
But I'd just be I don't think I'd be brave enough to take on such a, you know what I mean? Such a role that is many people like depend on that kind of thing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't be able to.
I think you might be selling yourself a little bit short there. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
you could if you wanted to,
I
but you don't
could.
have to. I'm
The
not saying you
pressure
should.
of it, I wouldn't want to. The pressure of it is just so mad. And now I just see like obviously when for the past few years I've been watching like all this talk of Gibraltar and Brexit and this and that and
Mm,
referendum and the border and this. It's just so much information and so
mm,
many people rely on it. And whatever the decision you make now is going to affect generations.
yeah.
And I just can't deal with that kind of pressure. I can't do it.
What about our final question? If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at
Oh
the
my
pearly
god.
gates?
I'd I'd just want to hear I'm proud of you for whatever it is that I've done, even if it's I've helped one person one day or I didn't the right decision, a difficult decision, or if I influenced many people or I made a difference somehow, no matter how small, even if it's just at home in Gibraltar, even if I leave a little positive mark somewhere, um, that is like I'm happy with that. So
Mm,
I'd want, and I'm determined to, in some scale, make that happen. So just hearing, I'm proud of you. It's all gonna be okay. Everyone you've left behind is okay because obviously
yeah.
by that time I would have a family of my own and stuff. And that's the only thing that like scares me really because I have such faith. I have such faith. I wouldn't consider myself a religious person, but I definitely believe. Like I definitely do. So just a simple, I've taken care of you, I'm proud of you, and here you are. Just enjoy, be at peace with everyone here. That would be amazing. And just I'd also like some hope for the world that I leave behind because now the path that we're going, as you said before, doesn't seem too promising.
Yeah.
But I would hope that God has some positive outcome to everything, which I do wholeheartedly believe. So
Yeah.
just some kind words of I'm proud of you, whatever it is that you did, you've done it well, and the world is gonna be okay. Like you've left it behind, but trust, it's fine. It's fine.
Bonus question, just for my curiosity, being a fellow classical musician. What's your favorite piece to play on the piano?
Oh, I love Chopin. I love Chopin because I'm a very much romantic pianist,
Hmm.
I'd say. Like I don't really like the very measured Baroque kind of style.
Yeah.
It just doesn't I feel very restrained. I can't express
Yeah.
myself. So there are certain pieces like that incorporate impressionism and stuff like that that allow me to really let go and perform and push and pull time. And I feel like with Chopin I can really do that. For my A levels, I played Nocturne in C sharp minor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite pieces. It's
I was
just
going to
so
guess that one.
yeah, it's just so I can express myself quite well. And I
Yeah.
also played Debussy
Hmm.
from the series of pieces Children's Corner. I
Yeah.
played the first one. Forgot what it was
Yeah.
called. It's got like a Latin name. I played that one and just the fun that you can have and the way you play with the piano, not necessarily the piano like plays the music, you play with it. It just gives so much scope for expression, dynamic interest. Like there's just so much you can do. So any piece that has that, you can have that leisure of
Yeah.
making it your own and doing things like that. I love. I'm open to learning it, and I love making it my own in some little way. Obviously, there's rules when it comes to classical music.
Some
Classical
rules.
as the umbrella
Yeah.
term, but
Sure.
obviously there are certain genres, eras within that allow you to push and pull the rules a little bit. So yeah, I love that.
I'm with you about the Baroque versus the more modern pieces. I was never a huge fan of the Baroque period. With the violin, it was things like, oh, you can't do vibrato and you can't be too expressive because that's not the way it was supposed to be. And I was like, well,
But I
it
want
was
to.
written 200 years ago. I'm going to do it the way I want. But apparently, you're not allowed to do that.
You find your own style, so obviously, the way that you're comfortable. I think I'm a very expressive person when I play. I don't know if I've got a video on Facebook of me playing, but I play with my whole being. Like I move quite a bit.
There are some classical musicians who, when they play, they look about to fall off the piano.
I move like that, and obviously in something like Baroque music, I don't have time to do that, and I can't. It would be, for the era that it would just be wrong to do that. So I obviously lean towards the not so much modern, but the impressionism, romantic kind of era.
But sometimes it's fun to be able to play with people's expectations, isn't it? Push the boundaries a little bit.
A little bit.
Well, Faith, that's about it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I was super nervous at first. I wasn't going to say that. You're like, how are you? I wanted to say I am so nervous right now. No, but I've had a great time. Just letting everyone know a bit about me, about my beautiful little rock. Love it. So thank you for giving me this opportunity and giving me the platform to share this with everyone.
It absolutely sounds like an amazing place. I will have to visit next time I'm over that way. How long should I put it? Do you really think one day is enough? Because you mentioned somewhere like one day.
I'm saying like you could do the touristic sites like the Mush Castle, the World War tunnels, and the siege tunnels. You could do all that in one day. But I'd say get a day to go to the beach, then get a day to like go to the town. Just I'd spend thing is I'd spend forever. I'd spend forever. I love it. So I want to say something like 1 week, 2 weeks. Realistically, 4 or 5 days.
A week.
You've got the gist of everyone and everything.
Yeah, but it takes a few days to enjoy the food. So that's what I'll be doing.
Oh my gosh, yes. I could give you so many nice places to go to.
That's how I travel, by going to the different restaurants.
I do that as well when I'm going this summer with my family to Italy and Greece. And we're already looking. We have like a thing of
at the
what restaurants shall we go to?
Taking a guided tour.
Like, oh, this is highly rated and this is this and this is that. Love it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Well, I will let you go and get lunch. I wish you best of luck at the internationals, wherever that happens.
Wherever it is, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching, whether it's live on the replay, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.